We are back. This conversation has flown by. They all fly by, but it's always, I love doing this podcast. I cannot say enough. It is so joyful for me, which is what we're going to close out on, just because I have the best conversations with the most incredible Black women. And every time I get something a little different. So I wrote back, burnout, starting with burnout and that dance. I'm going to be like swaying, thinking about, okay, what do I got to take off my to-do list?
Yes.
Let me sway.
Yes. That's it.
I love that. Yeah. And I want to now talk about joy. I want to first talk about, I feel like before we get to joy, which I think is a part of it, it's all about boundary work. So I want to spend a little bit of time asking you, how do you recommend Black women kind of set up and maintain some healthy boundaries, especially given the fact that people do not understand the unique stressors, particularly in the workplace and other places, even in your family, they may not understand the unique stressors that you're facing as a Black woman. How do you maintain and establish those boundaries then?
Yeah. One definition I have for boundaries are the limits and expectations that we set in our relationships with others and within our relationship with ourselves. Yes. Our boundaries protect us, right? And so I think there's a misconception about boundaries, that boundaries have to do with the other people or the other persons in your life. Boundaries really have everything to do with you. When you understand and affirm your own boundaries, you are teaching people how to have a healthy relationship with you. And not to sound threatening, but you're also sharing with them what happens if they don't.
Yeah.
Right? So one boundary I have several. One boundary I have that's so important to me are boundaries around my time. Time is so precious to me. It's so important. I have all kinds of systems in place to help me affirm those boundaries. But a question I used to get really early in my career very often was, Michelle, are you sure you're not available at this time? I mean, I don't see it on your schedule, but you sure you're not available in the evenings, on the weekend? Oh my gosh, all the time. And I used to get so offended by this. I used to take it really personally. What? They don't understand what's going on, right? So much frustration. I have a lot more peace with this in this day and age because they are welcome to ask me that question. Sure. Even though I have shared with them what my time is, go ahead. What's affirming to me is my answer is not going to change, no matter how many times you ask me. And I love a good compliment sandwich, a good yes, no, yes way of setting boundaries, starting with that top bun of affirming or recognizing what's been asked. That middle bun, I like to say the protein, right, of the sandwich is actually stating that really clear boundary. And then the bottom bun that keeps everything together is the action item. So when folks ask me that question, I go, hey, thanks for your request. No, I am still not available at that time. I actually am available at this time. Does that work for you? And if that doesn't work, we move forward. I've had to, again, I got to move my shoulders a little bit. We have to just roll with it because your boundaries have everything to do with you. And I've learned if I violate my boundaries, that's going to interrupt my healthy relationship with myself.
Yes.
You know, what can I do to take care of myself here? What was my boundary? What am I protecting? Oh, that's going to be in violation if I don't do this, if I don't say no to that, if I don't decline this, if I don't move that around, you know? So boundaries have everything to do with you and your relationship with yourself.
100%. And when you don't respect your boundaries, you are teaching people. When you respect and don't, you teach people how to respect or disrespect you. Like it really, they just learn it in small ways, like disrespect your time. If you say, oh, even though I told you my availability, you still pitched a time outside of that. And I said, yes, you've now taught somebody. Well, that's not, she doesn't really mean it. I can now continue to press and ask for another Saturday engagement, even though weekends are off limits. Right. So I think that is wonderful. I think setting preferences, so many times people are afraid to say no because they don't understand the compliment sandwich or they don't set a preference ahead of time, right? To say, this is who I am. I don't work well in the evenings. I don't work on afternoons and evenings. You gave a great example because sometimes people still don't respect it and they still ask a question. But start out that way. So many people never have even said language of a preference and then are constantly frustrated when people step all over a boundary. Was it Nidra Tawweb who said that a boundary is not something that isn't expressed out loud? It's like it's not a silent communication that people need to know. Yeah. They can't read your mind. So stating that preference and then that compliment, the yes, no, yes sandwich. I love that. I think that's going to be so helpful for folks.
Yes. Use it all the time. And it takes practice. And I want to acknowledge that some of us are experiencing burnout because I want to emphasize what you said, Kelley, because we don't know what our preferences are. We're not aware of our needs. We have no idea what our capacity is. We're just doing, maybe because we're pleasing others, maybe because that's how we've survived, right? You can have your own answer for it. Part of what I think is recovering from burnout, especially for Black women, is getting to know yourself.
Yes. So crucially important. And that's the first step. And boundaries to me and joy are linked. I don't see them as separate conversations. I see them as the same because the more boundaries I've set, the more joyful I've become. I don't know about for you, but I have more joy because I say no and I stand up in a room and own myself and own what my limitations are. And I set them out there so I don't even have to say no sometimes. But the joy, I'm like, oh, okay, this feels good. So I love the conversation we're having. I love it that it's in the joy segment because that is the way forward. I want to close with you, Michelle. What brings you joy? I just want to know generally, what brings you joy?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So many things. I know we've talked about reading. I have re-engaged my love of reading. I will be honest with you, grad school burnt me out from reading for a while, had to recover. Okay, was literally scared of a textbook. Come on, somebody. But now in this stage of my life, I'm able to really start reading specifically fiction again. I used to, then there was a period of time I was only reading like personal development books or professional development books. Listen, we are now diving into the fantasy. I just finished The Iron Flame. I don't know if you've heard of this book. Oh my God. It's so good, Kelley. We're through it. Okay. I'm getting into it. I like to say, if you like a little Harry Potter situation, you might like this. Okay. It's a little bit more adult, but okay. But I love reading and literally like getting my library card, going to the library when I have opportunities to be alone. I like to go and read, snuggle and read. I also like trying out new recipes. That's been something that's been bringing me a lot of joy. I'm not a chef, not a cook by any means, but I like trying some new things, and especially teaching my son different foods and how to enjoy different foods that are different colors. That's been awesome. Also, just connecting with my loved ones. It's been so much fun, especially this past season, whether it's my good girlfriends, my family members, just spending quality time with people I love. We'll literally put our phones down. We're engaged with each other. We got a cute charcuterie board. Okay. And yes. It's really been the most meaningful things have been bringing me so much joy. So much joy.
I love that. Follow-up question I ask everyone. How do you protect it? How do you protect the things that bring you joy? How do you protect your joy?
Yeah. Listen, we don't mean to be broken records here, but boundaries.
Yes.
I protect my joy with my boundaries. If there's something coming up in my work and it's taking extra time and space, I'm like, okay, how can I schedule within my work hours to take care of that? Because I have to protect my time that I'm spending with my son, or the time I'm spending with my husband, or the time I'm spending with myself.
Yes.
It's a consistent reminder that when I establish a boundary, when I reaffirm a boundary, I'm protecting my joy and the things that are important to me.
And it's so important to make that connection, right? It's knowing what you love, making time for it. The boundary facilitates that. Yeah. It's what keeps you able to be joyful. And so thank you for sharing that. Michelle, how can we connect with you with all this great information? I know people are going to want more. Yes. You've got books behind you. You've got to tell us all the things. How do we connect with you?
Yes. On all the social media platforms, I'm at the G Michelle with 2 L's. I absolutely love this work that is helping folks get connected to their well-rested versions of themselves. I like to help folks through journaling, guided journaling. I have 3 journals available on Amazon.com that you're welcome to be connected to. Self-Explore, Self-Restore, the self-care investment, and specifically for Black women, I Own My Magic. And again, all of those are available on Amazon.com. You're also welcome to explore my website where I have tons of goodies, digital goodies, for you to help with your burnout recovery. And I also love working with groups of people, helping them with workshops and talking about burnout recovery. We talk about assertive boundary setting, protective time management, resourceful task delegation. I mean, you name it, we're building those skills. I'll keep y'all posted for the next time that I do specifically my program for Black women called The Strength and Softness. Continue to stay connected on gmichelle.com and on socials for the next time I give that offering.
Awesome. We're going to have all of that in the show notes. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us and having this incredible conversation. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, Kelley. Thank you.